Like, I think that is a product so much of this, like, societal, like, value around humility, and on some level, I think I have a little bit of a unique perspective because I think humble is boring, and, like, I think that too many people take humility too far, and, like, a lot of times the humility that people are like, "Oh, this is so good," is completely inauthentic. It's that, like, "Gee, shucks, I, like, can't believe this happened to me." Like, bullshit. Bullshit. Like, I think humility needs to be not completely reserved, but, like, a lot of times reserved for, like, the people who take too much and ask too much of others. Like Elon Musk, I think could use some humility, right? Like there are a lot of people like that I think could use a lot of humility. But like for average everyday people who are just trying to like come into this space of like I am a worthy my voice is worthy too to add to the conversation. My work is worthy. Like there's a line between being humble and being a dick and like just like don't be a dick, right? Like don't cross that line into being like a jerk about it. But like, trying to like create this manufactured humility is like so off-putting to me. And I think that we have to look at ourselves and say like, okay, am I being a jerk? Am I like putting others down in order to make myself rise up? Or, like, is this not really a humility issue? Like, ego is important, otherwise we would have no sense of self, right?
Hi, I'm Jason.
I'm Fran.
I'm Carly.
This is Bo Peter.
And I'm Nicole. And this is Marketing for What Matters, where we explore how marketing paired with a regenerative mindset can uplift humanity, heal the planet, and still achieve profitable business growth.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Jam at Peaceful Media. Welcome to Marketing for What Matters. I have my new, very formidable host here with me, co-host Carly. Carly, would you like to introduce yourself? And last time we spoke on one of these episodes, you were the writer of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like the
I feel
writer
like you're evolving though.
I feel like the writer of stuff, title still applies, but for the purposes of this, I mean, I feel like we're co-creators, right? Co-creators of the podcast in this particular episode, co-creators of like real things in the world, which is something we're going to talk about is the art and science of creating real things and how scary that is when you're putting yourself out there to create. So, yeah.
Yeah, we titled this episode loosely as Do It Afraid. And this isn't coming from a pedantic academic place, but a real lived experience space, right? Because we're both in the midst of doing things that our heart really, really feels called to express and experience. And like so many people in the dreaming, ambitions, the difference making vibes world, the practicalities and circumstances and conditions crop up with very loud voices that say, yeah, but how? Right? That big old formidable how question comes in and says, this isn't really right. This isn't really normal, certainly. Like this, there's no track for this. There's no blazed trail for what you're trying to do here. There's very little precedence of succeeding in that endeavor. And yet the heart, like, and so basically you're in that beautiful place of like, do I listen to the heart or do I listen to this part of my brain that says, do the reasonable things, the practical things, the pragmatic things, and, and make sure that you're in lockstep with making money mostly. And so we're in this juicy place, you and I both, Carly, in different ways that are overlapping in all sorts of juicy, interesting ways. And yet what you and I are experiencing is so relevant right now because so many people are feeling into this call to bravely go down a path to produce something that will inspire a more beautiful world, and are faced with those demons, faced with those voices that say, how, you can't, this isn't normal, this isn't normal, this isn't normal. And so we wanted to expose our situation vulnerably with you in hopes that you, the audience, in hopes that there's something in here that'll help inspire you and help you navigate that blind and very dark path of the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. And like the thing that crops up for a lot of people too is not only the logistics of the how, but the who are you to do this? Like the worthiness of being the one, right? And like one of the reminders that I'm constantly giving to myself, like the pep talk I always say to myself is like, why would you be any less worthy of doing these things? And that like no one knows how to do things until they know how to do them, right? Like right now the task ahead seems like obscure and confusing because you've never done it before, but other people have. And like, hey, you're a smart person, I think you can figure it out. Like that's what I'm constantly saying to myself, like, you know, and not to be negative, but you're like, okay, well, people that I would consider to be less smart than me have figured this out. So I like being a smart, like savvy person, I can probably figure it out.
It's still a game of compare and contrast.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, what does that go away completely? No, of course
Yeah,
not. It's just like you
yeah.
find new ways to address that voice.
Justify. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's such an interesting angle. And certainly something that I have experienced it today, experienced it yesterday, will continue to experience. So I think that's a really pertinent piece that we need to explore here. And it actually goes on the other side too of where we step fully into this brave unknown and say, I am capable, I am worthy, I am doing this. And I'll tell you, one of my big things, Carly, is that I start like judging myself for quote unquote being egotistical,
Hmm.
right? Like there's a part of me that's super worried about ego like consuming my existence and my way of being. And sometimes I judge that side of me that knows I am worthy, and says, that's a loud voice you have, mister, you know, like, you big egoed human being, shush it up, so it's really interesting, the spiritual game of all this.
Yeah, and like I think that is a product so much of this like societal like value around humility. And on some level, I think I have a little bit of a unique perspective because I think humble is boring. And like, I think that too many people take humility too far. And like, a lot of times, the humility that people are like, oh, this is so good, is completely inauthentic. It's that, like, gee, shucks, I like can't believe this happened to me. Like, bullshit. Bullshit. Like, I think humility needs to be not completely reserved, but like a lot of times reserved for like the people who take too much and ask too much of others. Like Elon Musk, I think could use some humility, right? Like there are a lot of people like that I think could use a lot of humility. But like for average everyday people who are just trying to like come into this space of like I am a worthy, my voice is worthy too, to add to the conversation. My work is worthy. Like there's a line between being humble and being a dick, and like just like don't be a dick, right? Like don't cross that line into being like
Yeah.
a jerk about it. But like, trying to like create this manufactured humility is like so off-putting to me. And I think that we have to look at ourselves and say like, okay, am I being a jerk? Am I like putting others down in order to make myself rise up? Or like, is this not really a humility issue? Like ego is important. Otherwise we would have no sense of self, right?
Yeah. Carly, what you're saying really lands for me. Thank you. really, really lands.
Because
So
one of my
like,
favorite spiritual teachers, she talks about how, like, really what the ego is in its essence is fear. So it's the thing that's blocking us from even stepping into that ownership of what we want, right? And like, I need that reminder too. I'm like, I'm trying to do something, and then there's like this like visceral feeling of just like so much fear. And it's like, okay, that's not real. That's the ego. Because like when we're really in our soul's work, I don't think that we are anything but humble.
yeah, yeah. I also had a spiritual teacher. It's very aligned with what you're saying. Spiritual teacher listened to one of my voicemails saying, I just want to be careful that I'm not coming from ego with this, da, 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 da. And she was like, can I have a conversation with you about ego? She's like, like you were saying, like, without ego, you have zero personality and zero like full embrace of your uniqueness. Now, where ego gets out of control is when it becomes a compare and contrast. I'm better than, my voice is more necessary than yours, and my stuff is better than yours, and all of that stuff. That the judgment piece, the compare and contrast stuff of ego, yes, like we can do away with that. But let your uniqueness flourish in the world. That is what makes your life uh resonate. That is why, if you want to go to the spiritual level, like why uh why were these, if this is my personal belief, is that we're all spiritual beings having a human experience, and if we don't allow that personality to shine, aka the ego part of us, the id, um then like you're just sort of a gray matter, you're just a flesh packet walking around, and with zero interesting edges, zero interesting colors. So just go for it. Like, let the palette sing, let your voice sing. um and again, I'm looking into the camera and I'm talking to you, Carly, and I'm gonna watch this episode a little bit later, and I'm gonna go, thanks for saying that, Jam. What a great reminder. So I
God.
want you guys to know, who are watching this, like, this is real time stuff. There's no we figured this shit out. We're coming down from the mount and saying, here is thy commandments, everything we have ascertained as truth, you shall know now, and they are carved in stone. That's absolutely not the case right now.
No, and, like, as you go further along the path of, like, what you wanna create, and we should talk about, like, what those things are that we are afraid of and are doing anyway, but, like, as you go further along, the thing that I find is, like, oh, the fears and, like, the blocks that I have around things that I thought, like, "Oh, I've definitely moved past this," come up again in different and unique ways sometimes, and you realize that, oh, yes, of course. The work is never done. And sometimes it's just like it surprises you what is still there, like the ways in which you're still holding yourself back, the childhood things that, someone said offhandedly that were not meant to impact your whole life, but have stayed with you. Like they're still there. And that, if we want to talk about ego, is like the shadow part of your ego trying to keep you small, right? And so it's like this continual process. Like I like I'm better than I used to be, but I'm not like but now I'm doing harder, more
Yeah,
different, more unique things, and
yeah,
now it's back again. So it's like, yeah,
yeah,
we're by no means like the gurus of this. We're just kind of sharing experience right now, and
yeah,
we're in the thick of it. We're in the thick of it.
yeah, yeah. So we call these, in my circle of friends who are all on journeys together and sharing profusely, what we're experiencing. We call these messy thoughts, which just gives us, all permission to not have it all figured out. And this is a messy thoughts exploration of what it means to do it afraid. And we hope that we hope that you'll embrace that. and find some juice in this. So Carly, let's pivot over to what it is that we are expressing, right? We are stepping bravely in this expression of something from our hearts. So maybe we could just touch on that real quick, and then what are we being confronted with? And what does that fear feel like? And then lastly, explore like what we're doing to transcend it. Does that
Yeah,
sound reasonable?
that sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
So do you want to go first?
Okay. So, I guess like what overall, like the simple thing is I'm trying to get my first book published. I've completed the manuscript. It's gone out to someone to read. They've given feedback. So I'm now on my second round of editing and making everything cohesive. So it's not quite ready to start querying agents or reaching out to people just yet. But I'm in that process of putting it together. And I find that some of the things that I run into is like, okay, I'm very confident as like the writer of stuff, right? Like I've written articles for years and years and years. I graduated from journalism school. Like I have all these things that support me and say like, you're a good writer. People reach out to me and say that my personal essays like have made them laugh or have like been thought provoking or so there's enough like there for me to have like bolstered up that part of my identity enough to feel very confident in that. But I've never written fiction before. I've never entirely created a story from scratch and built a world and characters and like, I don't have an MFA, which, a Master of Fine Arts, which a lot of people do when they start to publish. So like there are many things where I can say like, oh, this is a new territory for me. And it's like very much banging up against the walls of my comfort zone to like put that much of myself out there because now it's like if I'm writing a personal essay, I can show you exactly what I want to show you. Right? Like I can let you in as much as I want to let you in. But when I'm writing this story of fiction, it's like, oh man, you're seeing like the inner workings of my brain on like a larger scale, like this is putting myself out there in a brand new way. And so the things that I kind of bang up against are just like, some of that, like, who are you? Like, are you qualified to even be able to do this? Because like the part of me that got started was like, you've read books before, you could probably figure this out. And like, I think there's something to that, right? But now it's like seeking the validation that somebody else agrees with that, or like, an agent is going to see that and say, like,
Mm,
I want to tell this
yeah.
story, right? So it's like
Yeah.
now I have to, but I have to open myself up enough to put myself out there in that way, and that is something that I do not like to do. Like, I like to keep it pretty tight around, like, who's allowed in and so that, and then I'm coming up against the stories of the past of, like, you should just tell other people's stories, or, like, you're really good at this thing, but you don't have like the skill set to be able to do this kind of tangentially related thing. And I find that I just can come up with a million examples from like my past that are supporting that unless I actively work to counter that mentality. So
Uh, yeah. Wow. That's really, really juicy. And I bet it's super relevant because so many people want to tell their stories in lots of different mediums, right? Because I know you personally enough and professionally enough, Carly, to know that you write essays about your life and expose way more than most people.
that's true. Yeah.
Um, way more. I mean, it is a really raw blog over there on Substack called Bored Aquarian, written by Carly. And I mean, I'm shocked sometimes when I read you saying I'm really private and really I have these containers and I don't let people in, even loved ones, from what I've picked up on. And to hear that alongside, like, here's this thing with these characters that aren't me, these characters who are having this experience. Of course, readers know that's like came through your vision, your heart, and all that, your pen. But still, it can be true. It can be not true. It can be kind of related to your life, relevant to your life, or just completely fabricated out of thin air with big magic. And so, like, that suspension of the unknown of that is this beautiful place for you to be, I would imagine, this safe little container where, like, I'll let you have your own experience of that truth, and because I'm not willing to let you know what's from me and what's from the divine that just went through my pen. And I just moved my pen, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so to hear that that's the fear you're confronted. I know this isn't like a therapy session, or like I don't want to use the whole time just to give you feedback on why I think that's a unreasonable fear, because that's not what I mean.
It's very
It's just,
unreasonable. Yes.
it's super interesting to me, this some of the and I resonate with that. Like, this, some of these things that I get super scared about are irrational. Right? Or like, maybe there's something in there that we could explore of, like, where does, like, is it just our fear, like, coming up with these super clever
Mhm.
ways of hooking into our psyches?
Yeah.
Because that sounds really clever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, here you are writing this blog for 3 years. I mean, at least a couple of years.
Couple years.
Like,
Yeah.
exposing the inner workings of your life and your relationship and there's your sex life is on display to some degree. And like, and then the juxtaposition of that, and I'm putting this, I think, as a fantasy fiction, right?
Magical realism. Yeah.
Magical realism,
Yeah.
going out there and nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to know. It's cloaked in secrecy about what's yours and what's spirits. And that one feels scarier than the other one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clever, clever, clever.
I
That
know.
fear.
Well, and it's like there's more to like failing when it comes to like a publisher doesn't want to publish your book versus like my newsletter. I have complete control, like whether you want whether you want to hear it or not, like I can put it on that platform and it exists in the way that I want. But
Yeah.
now I have to open myself up to other people's kind of rejection or, like validation or not, and
Yeah.
that to me is like the scariest part. And yes, the story is kind of based like a fictional reimagining of like a real time in my husband's life. So there's like tons of things that have actually happened, haven't, right? It's all mixed together. Things that have just happened to me that I've included it, but it's like now you see how my brain works on a 300-page scale, and like that to me is like that's an opening
Yeah.
that I have not done before.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you do? How do you navigate the need for validation and the need to be seen, and the need for security that, this piece of work is worthy of being printed on 300 pages of tree?
One of the things that I've realized is like a lot of times when I'm procrastinating on it or like not moving forward, it's like the fear of the end more than anything. Like the fear of actually now it's done and ready to go on submission to agents, right? Like holding myself back from that, like that process that for a lot of people when you're just like cold querying agents, right? It's a lot of rejection. You get some people who want to read pages, hopefully, like that's the dream. Some people want the full manuscript, but you get a lot of rejections from people that you don't. And so it's like in anticipation of a rejection process, you can like slow it up and like can stop. So it's not like I have it all figured out at all. Like these are just kind of things that I'm noticing about myself that I'm like, I'll send like part of a chapter to a competition and, it won't get shortlisted or it won't get past the first round or something like that. And, you know, sometimes it's just like, man, these people are going to be really bummed when this is like an international bestseller, like, and they passed up on it, like the little games that I have to play to just keep going. Like that's, I think, the thing that we're going to talk about with you too, right? It's just like sometimes we need to like talk a better game than we feel just to keep ourselves in the game as opposed to being like I give up or this is too hard, it's like yeah,
Yeah.
noticing
Yeah.
and trying to like find innovative ways to like
Yep.
soothe that fear a little bit.
Yeah. I don't want to get into the depths of religious beliefs, but one of the things I've come back around to in the Bible, growing up Christian, in the beginning there was the Word, and that was like the spark of in the mythology of the Christian beliefs. That was the spark of all creativity. That's the spark of all existence, and it connects because with what you just said, because the words we allow ourselves to not only say and hear and feel, more importantly, make quite a big difference in our ability to transcend those fears, transcend the common hours thinking and constraints, conditions, and create something that never existed, right? And so what words are we telling ourselves? What words are we allowing to find a place in our hearts to create their own lives, or parts in our brains, really, to create their own lives and sometimes lies, right? Especially when you're just a little bamboo shoot right now, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's just something that just popped out of the ground, and there's some light getting it's like finding some light, and it wants to go grow some some leaves and branches off of it. And those early days where it's just like a couple inches tall, those early days are so raw,
Oh
are
yeah.
so vulnerable to one, like you said earlier, one misplaced or ignorant expression, criticism, limiting belief, whatever. Oh, how cool. Here's a great example. Someone says, oh, how cool. My brother tried to do that and failed.
Right. You're like,
Or, yeah, like, oh, I've always dreamed of that. And then I got realistic, and then pursued like my, a career beyond, a career of making tons of money. And I'm so happy I chose this path.
in publishing too, they're like, oh, publishing is so hard. It's going to be such a like horrible process. Like
Right.
editing is so horrible. And it's like,
Yeah.
but people told me that when my kids started going to daycare, oh, you'll be sick all the time. And I would be like, no, I am not. I am not going to be sick all the time because I'm not even like allowing that to enter my being. And I try to do the same with this too. It's like, well, maybe it won't be that hard for me because it's not really hard for everyone. Yes, it's hard for a lot of people or maybe even the majority, but like, what if it's really easy and wonderful for me? What if it's really easy and wonderful for you? You know, we don't know. Don't put that on people.
Yes. Yes. Note to everyone.
Yeah.
Keep those stories, those belief systems, the paradigms.
Unless
That it
the
has to
story is
be.
funny,
It
I
has
don't
to
want to
be
hear
this
it.
way. It has to be this or that.
Yeah.
It has to be an either or. Just please keep that to yourself.
Yeah.
For all the dreamers and difference makers' sake, just please keep that to yourself, because otherwise we're just going to continue down this rutted road of existence that that leads us to the same old boring ending.
Yeah.
And beyond boring, sometimes destructive,
Yeah.
right? This world needs more beautiful ideas to flourish.
I think it's a
Yeah.
perfect segue into what you're trying to create, Like, this is something brand new too, It's a calling and, like, it's a big
Yeah.
dream.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll come back to that word you just said, trying, right? Because even that has a different vibration than I am doing.
Doing. Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah.
I say that because I remind myself, I correct myself sometimes with that word
Yes.
is I am in this present moment, allowing this to pass through me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And to become manifest. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so I felt we talked about this yesterday, and Carly, you've been right alongside me in this journey. So I'm more speaking to the audience, but I have been since the early days of Peaceful Media, and prior to Peaceful Media, I've been making films, and with not necessarily a commercial pursuit um, all the time, but just I really find a lot of creative expression through filmmaking, and produced a documentary feature, for Project Everlasting back in the day, featuring all of these lovely couples sharing their lives from 40 years of marriage, and the pains and the glories, and I loved making that. It didn't feel like work. I didn't have to get paid. I certainly did not get paid much for that, but nevertheless, it was something I would stay. My buddies would be going to the club or whatever, or going to do something fun, and I'd be like, "No, guys, I'm going to stick around here and learn how to do this, editing technique, so I can like tell this story better and make this promo video and stuff like that." And I just find juice in it. I just find it like that's my art. And yeah, it's been dormant for a long time here at Peaceful Media. And I recently just tapped back into that. And last fall, and Carly, you and I worked on a piece of film, a short film. It's just like the answer to the question of, what would I say to the world in 11 minutes and 11 seconds? If I were to die in this next minute, what would I want to leave behind? And I went out and shot a film, and I'm really proud of it, and I want to do more of it. Right. And I want to use this medium of filmmaking to inspire others and to create more peace and harmony in the world. And so as the more I lean into that, the scarier it gets. And like we talked about yesterday, I continue to get out on this thinner and thinner branch. And I wonder what air or what invisible hand is going to hold me up the further it gets out there. And so there are some mornings, and some evenings, that's usually the brackets of the day, where I absolutely forget. I get obliterated. My dream gets obliterated by fear. And I recognize the pattern of it. I recognize how many times this has shown up, and how many times my dreams have led to utter chaos, and mostly financial chaos. And then I come back up for air from that, and I recognize that financial anxiety is the destroyer of flow and life and creativity and my heart's expression. And I decide in those moments to do what I can with what I have to keep reviving that heart's expression that's sometimes feels like it's on life support. And so getting back to like what it is, like this thing of making films has turned into a really clear vision for creating a docuseries television show that I absolutely see and hold on the biggest distribution platforms that we currently have to be seen across the world. And it's a beautiful expression. It's coming from my heart. I actually know it's mega commercially viable. I know that people will watch this and love this. And I'm showing it to people who also believe, who have a deep understanding of how entertainment industry works, and also firmly believe that this is a great show. And so it's both getting validation from experts and professionals, and having a hyper clear coherence with my heart and my mind and all that is, and the look at the bank account does not reflect it, and that's the piece that gives me the most pause and the most disruption in my life. So yeah, that's where I'm at with this. I just go, so what do I do with it? What do I do with it?
Yeah.
One thing is, I expose that as vulnerably as I can with people who I know will embrace me.
Yeah.
Right? Who hold me in the highest light and hold me in the highest vision for my life, who firmly believe and remind me of their belief in me. And that is invaluable. Without that, I am in isolated suffering with no hope. That privately suffering through anxieties like this and this fear is just a catastrophic downward spiral into depression in my experience. And so I am purposely, intentionally, daily, vulnerably sharing where I'm at with people who I know will reflect back to me, and perhaps even open the door. Right? As I share that, support comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Support, emotional support sometimes, physical support sometimes, financial support, ideas support, like things flood in that wouldn't have been possible unless they had felt my fear and felt like this love for me and a desire to help embrace and like, let me shepherd this along with what I have where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is like my number one go-to is, and maybe it's two, is if I broaden the idea of support, is going to whatever you feel like source is, God, universe, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it, Yahweh, going there and giving it up.
Mm-hmm.
Giving it up. Like, I give this away, and I receive wherever this is supposed to, whatever you want to show me, universe, whatever you want to show me here, I give this away. No attachments, no push energy. I receive humbly, gratefully, fully.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge. And then the other piece is the other humans, right? And they're both in the same spirit. And they both intertwine because whatever, again, going back to that unnameless, no named energy of life shows up oftentimes in other human beings saying, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. Right? Just like I shared yesterday. I show that short film
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about, the 11 minutes and 11 seconds that we created last fall. I show that to someone who says, I believe in this. I believe in what you're doing. What do you want to do with it? Oh, you want to go big with this? Okay, cool. Let me show it to my contacts in Hollywood. And they happen to be all, household names of household
Yeah,
names of
exciting
household names.
people.
I mean,
Yeah.
like mega. And, that's just universe saying, okay, I got someone that's going to be really helpful for you in this part of your journey. please, Jam, this is the way I hear it, is please keep the faith. Keep that faith and belief in this, because you will not become the person you are called to be if you shirk right now.
Yeah, if you stay small or you stay comfortable, which is really the same thing. And yeah, and I think this is kind of a perfect opportunity for me to share with you the video I created for the Alchemize event, because this is a reminder to both of us. But I do want to say one thing that perhaps we can come to after we like watch the video together, which is money not like often the killer of dreams? Like lack of resources, I would think, is the number one reason people don't pursue their dreams. And I have been working myself on like my abundant attitude and my like financial freedom, and so I want to share some techniques maybe at the end of this episode if that feels
Oh,
aligned.
fantastic.
Um
Yes. What a great hook.
yeah.
Stick to the end.
Yeah. Uh, come back after this, right?
Wow, you are not just a writer of stuff. You are a marketer.
Oh no, it's happened.
Oh,
No.
damn it. Next thing, Jam's gonna say I'm an AI specialist.
I know. I know. Oh, that's so funny.
The depths of hell have emerged.
Right.
Oh my god.
Just
Okay,
a
so
single
let's
tear.
yeah. Yes. How dare you taint my writers of things. I ID with marketer. All right. So I reframe. Every marketer is just at their core a communicator. Every
Yes,
writer
yes.
is simply a communicator. That's where they can meet in the happy middle. Okay.
Yes, yeah,
So
yeah.
what is going to be necessary is a little bit of framing for what Alchemize is.
Mm-hmm.
Alchemize is part of that show I was describing. I call it Manifesto, the show. And it's following people who are manifesting something that's going to make their community a more beautiful existence, more harmonious, more peaceful, more loving, and more healthy in many cases. And so just imagine I am one of the protagonists. And Carly, you are one of the protagonists in a different way, right? So like we're all these protagonists in our lives of going, on the Joseph Campbell, follow thy bliss, hero's journey. And my journey right now is to develop a container called Alchemize, where human beings who feel called can come to in this case, the Oregon Desert and become anew and be loosed of imaginary lines and constraints and limits. And I'll share my screen real quick, and then I'll help understand why you recorded a video that's coming up here. Okay, so this is, this is the experience Alchemized. It's happening May 2nd through the 5th, 2nd through the 4th here in the desert. This materialized as something I felt super called to do, and sort of developed in materialization over the last 2 months. So all of it's happening really quickly, and Carly has expressed desire to come and join, and which is awesome. I cannot wait to experience the Oregon Desert with my friend and colleague and soul, spirit conspirator, if you will, in this immersive experience called Alchemize. And all sorts of miracles are happening here, and people showing up and people saying yes. And it's really going to be fun and juicy. And I've changed my mind about what this has to be into a more flow state and receiving. And like, this is going to be amazing no matter what. Right. So that's awesome. That's a great place for me to be that I wasn't in a few weeks ago. And as we tell people about this, I shot a trailer for it, and started sharing it with folks. I got some feedback from somebody who watched it, who just randomly ran into me at an event and came up and said, she's like in her late 60s, and she's like, oh, that was an interesting trailer. You're like, it looks like a really interesting event, but it's also not for me because looks like it's just like a bunch of young, you know, young, wild, woolly mammoths tromping around in the desert, being in their masculine. And I'm just like not at that stage of my life. And I was like, oh, no, please. Oh, I need to rethink some of that messaging then, because I so desperately want your energy there around the fire. And I want us young, wild, woolly mammoths to experience the wisdom of the elder feminine. And I want us to get quiet and in that connection with Mother Earth. And if only I could go back and reshoot that trailer so that you felt really welcomed. And Carly, you said, I'll shoot it.
I'll give it a shot, like, because to give people kind of, and they can watch it, right? We'll include it in the
Yeah.
show notes. They can see the original, but like you're outside, you're running around. It's like very active and that's a powerful energy, right? Like that's one half of the energy that we're bringing to this event.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But the other half, right, is like the receptive, the soft, so like my video, I'm like sitting in this chair. You can see like my messy house in the background. I'm not wearing makeup. And like that's the second half, right? Like there's the activity of like pushing toward your dreams. And then there's also that receptivity of allowing them to manifest. Like, right,
Yeah.
you take the effort forward and then you receive. So this is kind of like just the second side of that energy that like we're going to intertwine at this event if I'm really understanding it. And I think that by reading through, and kind of connecting and like if I read this through this thing and was not just like, okay, I'm going to do this. This is because this is entirely outside of my comfort zone. Like I don't camp like this. Like I don't go into the desert and just like that's no. Like I want to go to
By the way,
somewhere where
that's
I'm on a
shocking to
beach.
me. That's shocking to me, but I'm here to feel this and
Yeah,
hear
and
this.
like I grew up car camping, which like
Yeah.
that's what people in the Pacific Northwest call it. In Ohio, it's just camping. Like you go to a campground and you set up a tent, but it's like contained. So like, bringing my own water and like going to the bathroom outside, it's like, okay, this is really pushing you, which is good. But, so it's like,
I did add some detail to help you assuage some of that fears around going to the bathroom outside.
oh, okay.
There are vault toilets.
Okay. Thank you.
But I take your point.
Yeah.
This is a primitive, wild woolly mammoth esque experience
Right.
of going back to days of like very little convenience.
Yeah. And like,
And
I think transformation can happen anywhere, but when
Mhm.
we are outside our comfort zone, it can happen quicker or more profoundly sometimes. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing this because I know that it's going to be uncomfortable for me in
Right.
ways that some of which I haven't even like figured out yet.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I think for time's sake, we will insert your surrender to the invitation. I think that's what you've titled it, actually, was
Mhm.
an invitation to surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, you're bringing a very different energy. You're bringing the counter opposite of the energy I had in my wild woolly mammoth trailer. I just love the language around us.
Yes.
So what we'll do is we'll play those back to back.
Okay.
And maybe that's I'm looking at the audience now and saying, like, if you're coming here for marketing and messaging stuff, like this probably hasn't been super relevant until now, where, when you're doing a new endeavor like this, you may want to, you're going to get some market feedback as long as you're willing to listen to it. And then it's a matter of like, I need to recalibrate a little bit. Right. Because one energy will push off someone who's highly eligible and would have an amazing time with your product, service, or experience. And so every great marketer, every great writer of stuff, every great communicator is an empathetic human being, right? And empathy requires deep listening. So if we are making assumptions about what is going to land from our own lenses only, our own egos, and never taking the time to ask and listen and go in the comments, go in the forums, go in the wherever people are expressing, their deepest pain and deepest desires.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, might as well just not be a marketer. Might as well just not. Might as well write something else, magical realism, I guess. Because I think any writing actually, but anyways, our job at its core is to be empathetic. So anyways, that's the marketing segment. That's all you're going to get from the marketing segment.
That's it.
Now we're going to shift into, Carly, if we could shift back over to that age-old question of how do I get into that abundance mindset so that I can fuel this beautiful work and creativity and art I'm doing in the world?
Yeah. So I want to give some context here around. I learned these techniques from the spiritual teacher that I mentioned earlier, but did not name, Marie Manuchehri. I went to one of her retreats in Greece a couple of years ago that has really changed my life in big ways since then, kind of implementing some of the things that she preaches. But she also has a podcast that I highly recommend people listen to, the Marie Manuchehri Show. You can find it anywhere where energy meets the divine. And she does a little bit of teaching at the beginning, and then she answers questions that people submit. But one of her big techniques around having abundance, because she's like, people in the world, like your art does not have to be connected to money. Actually, those two things are entirely separate. People have financial freedom without doing, sometimes without doing anything, right? Like the people have really mastered it. Like they have financial freedom regardless of what happens. So her technique is to think of something that like genuinely makes you joyful, right? Like you feel it in your body. It can't be a person. It can't be a pet. It can't be anything that like sometimes disappoints you sometimes or makes you annoyed. So for me, my example is the way light shimmers off water, like that sparkly water kind of thing. It's like I draw that into my mind, right? Like, so anytime I'm going to touch money, I'm going to touch my wallet, I'm going to open a banking app, I'm going to like check my balance on a credit card. I think about that first. I get in that happy, joyful energy, and then I engage with my wealth. She also recommends like not using the word money because money is a trigger word for a lot of people. And so, wealth, resources, abundance, prosperity, like whatever that word that is more joyful for you, that's the one you should be using. So it's as simple as that. Anytime you come into contact with wealth or your resources in any way, first, you're taking a moment to stop. You're pulling up that thing that makes you happy. It could be flowers. It could be like bird songs. Like it can be color, whatever it is that you're just like, oh, I'm like kind of buzzing with happiness. Then you start to engage. And putting that energy into those things, it's like all of a sudden doors open, right? All of a sudden, like you receive a refund in the mail from something that you didn't even realize you had purchased or like it needed or whatever, and it's like, it's best not to think about the how, right? Like we talked about in the beginning, like the how is the fear. Just like doing this technique, it changes things, definitely. And then the other thing is, instead of doing affirmations, which Marie says, like affirmations work really well if your brain is already in that space to believe it. But a lot of the things that we want, our brain is actively thwarting us with like the how and the who are you and whatever. So using what if questions, like kind of engaging with curiosity is something that your ego does not get upset about. Your ego doesn't really pick at questions if it's, what if I am worthy and deserving of financial freedom? Is better than I am worthy and deserving of financial freedom. So your brain can go, are you though? Like, is that really for you? Right? If it's a what if, it's you're much more open because it's just kind of like, what if I am worthy and deserving of financial freedom? And you can create your own, right? Some of the ones that I've actually, so she sells what if cards. I've created my own just on note cards. So, what if my new reality looks like all my wildest dreams come true? That's one she talked about on the podcast recently. This one is me. What if my path to writerly success is seamless and joyful? What if I easily receive? That's anyone could use that one, right? What if I surrender and get out of the way? All of these things, and you'll create your own, or you'll buy the pack if that is something that makes you feel inspired. But using those, and again, not thinking about them, just repeating them throughout your day. Sometimes I'll, when I'm doing my meditation in, the morning or before bed, like I'm repeating those questions and just like kind of cycling through and letting that be the thing. Because that is the way we kind of pull those things into our consciousness and then we let them go so that the universe can work behind the scenes to make our lives magical, which I think is always happening. So, if we just got the hell out of our own way, it would probably happen faster.
I think for time's sake, what I'd love to do, if you be willing, those are so good. And I'd love to create a little, like, I don't know how long it would take to record this, but like a little meditation, if you will, of just that cycle, the cycle of you going through those cards, or video, or both,
Sure.
as a little like double click.
Okay.
Right, right. We talked about double clicks as part of the Marketing for What Matters podcast. This double click is one tool you can use to do it afraid and manifest the abundance that is often required to do things at bigger and bigger scales with our lives.
Yeah.
So would you be open to that? Like
Yeah.
video or audio or both?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining this this messy thoughts, which I think could have a really, really important ripple effect. And it's exactly the kind of content I love creating with you, Carly, is this real raw, so we are in support of the viewer. I feel like this is the deepest support we can give to people who are on their own journeys towards that heart-based living and full expression. Right. And obviously Peaceful Media does all of the brand building and marketing and platform building and course creation and course sales and all that other stuff. But what I've realized over the last 17 years of running Peaceful Media is that actually 80% of the success or failure comes down to whether or not we have the tools and stamina to do it afraid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest gift we can give people, is to tell them, like, take your big unwieldy dreams and do them afraid, because there is no readiness. There is no, you have to be in the thick of your fear and still be making kind of those forward steps. Otherwise, it's never going to happen, because there will never be a perfect moment. So I'm glad that we got to showcase our individual examples of like how we are moving forward and doing it afraid, and I hope other people are inspired to do the same.
Yeah. Carly, thank you so much for just bringing your voice and bringing your heart to the show. It really resonates. And we hope if you enjoyed this episode of Marketing for What Matters, you'll, as those damn marketers say, smash that subscribe button. So dumb. That's so dumb. When we all totally. It's like, are you guys all part of the same YouTube channel mastermind where like the guru said, all right, here's your explicit instructions for building your channel. You must, within the first 1 minute, say, smash that like button and subscribe to this channel.
Anytime I hear like smash or like it's like I just imagine finger guns every time. Exactly.
Shooter McGavin energy.
Yes. Yeah.
From Billy Madison. Smashing that life button. Oh man. Carly, I think this is also a reality show we could materialize. Just us going out and lampooning the smash the like button energy.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time, everyone. I'm Jam at Peaceful Media.
I'm Carly at Peaceful Media.
And Bored Aquarian.
And Bored
in case
Aquarian.
you're interested in learning about Carly's,
My
I don't know,
life.
lots of stuff. Oh, and tarot readings.
Some tarot readings, yeah.
Yes, I'm becoming more and more attuned to how this is one of your big necks that you're growing into. So I'm excited to experience.
And something that I'm going to get to share at Alchemize. So hopefully, people will see this and they'll want to join us on that journey.
Yeah, we'll put links to all of this below so that you can explore these things. So sending you love wherever you're at in the world. Go out and love more, play more, and do more good with every single moment of your life. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to our podcast, Marketing for What Matters. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google, or Pandora. Love the show? Leave us a review and follow us on social media at Peaceful Media to stay up to date about new episodes. And as always, thank you to this earth for giving us all we've ever needed. See you next time.